Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Don't you understand, George? It's because you were not born.
Film church.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
What's the matter with you guys? This was never about the money. This was about us against the system. That system that kills the human spirit. We stand for something. We are here to show these guys that are inching their way on the freeways in their metal coffins that the human spirit is still alive. Don't worry about this guy, okay? I know exactly what to do with him.
Hey, bro, and welcome to Film Church Radio. This is the podcast that treats cinema as a religion. It's Sunday. I'm Lewis.
And I'm Brandon.
And we are here to talk about movies. Each week, Brandon and I alternate picking a film for us both to watch and discuss. Today, I had help from Brandon to pick the film, Point Break from 1991, directed by Kathryn Bigelow, starring Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze, Gary Busey, and Laurie Petty. As I said, this was picked by Brandon. If you didn't hear last episode, what I did was I had Brandon pick a year, and then I went on Letterboxd, navigated to the most popular films of that year, and the top one that I hadn't seen was the one that we picked. Brandon picked 1991, and Point Break was that film.
Which is the year you were born. That's why I picked 91.
It was, yeah. So just knocking off these films from the year I was born. I love it. Directed by Kathryn Bigelow, and it has been a film that has been on my radar for a while, and one that I've been wanting to watch. I think mostly because of the type of film it is and the fact that it's directed by Kathryn Bigelow. But we'll get onto that, I'm sure, later on in the episode. If you want to hear what we're watching next week and watch along with us, of course, make sure to listen to the end of the episode, and Brandon will be revealing what we will be watching. Before we get on to the films that we've been watching this week, however, we'd like to say thank you to everyone who's been listening to the podcast and sending their love for the show. If you're new to the show and are enjoying it, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when a new episode is available. We post new episodes on a Sunday because we are a film church, so that's when we preach. And if you really, really enjoy the show, please share it with your friends. You can find us on all social media platforms, including TikTok now, at Film Church Radio. You can leave us a comment or send a message about the show. We also post extra content on YouTube. If you want to see our lovely faces, we recorded over Zoom for the last episode with our special guest, Jason Woods. So if you want to go and watch that on YouTube and see how we reacted to some major points live, you can do that. And obviously, if you are enjoying it, please leave us a rating and review. Helps other people that are like-minded find the congregation and join along this cinematic odyssey. Before we discuss our main film today, Brandon and I like to talk about what else we've been watching this week. Because there's so many great films out there and we can only pick one a week. So, Brandon, what have you been watching, my friend?
Well, I've been watching quite a few things, bro, my dude. But first of all, hello. And I just wanted to ask you real quick about the Queen, because she died recently, and I'm not from the same place you are.
Yeah.
And I don't even know my own politics that well and stuff, but I just wondered I just wanted, first of all, to send my condolences.
Thank you.
And ask you what's going on in your head right now, because it's got to be weird to have the same queen for your whole life, and I'm sure for your whole parents' lives too.
Yeah.
So
she reigned for 70 years, which is crazy. There's so many people that she's the only monarch that we've ever known. So it's a very weird time. First off the bat, I did like the Queen a lot. I like what she stood for, and kind of I feel like especially recently with COVID and everything, she showed the best side of the British life, I guess. She was kind of, we can get through this. It's that kind of Second World War, roll up your sleeves, and as a unit we can accomplish anything kind of thing, which is always great. And it's just weird. It's just when those momentous things happen, you just know the world's never going to be the same again. And it's weird to kind of watch that unfold in real time. Yeah. And these things that you knew was coming, but you couldn't kind of envision, as soon as it happened, they released a statement from King Charles, which is very like, whoa, yeah, but it's very sad. So yeah, it's a very weird time.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say other than sorry, my condolences, and yeah.
What can you say? I didn't know personally, but
yeah,
it is.
But still, like, this isn't quite the same. But when Stan Lee died, it was very strange to me because I was like, man, there's so many people, including myself, that have never lived in a world without Stan Lee.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the change of everything. I mean, like me and Chelsea were talking just before we came and started recording that I guess now money's going to change in England. Because she was on all the money, so now there's going to be that big change there, and it's just like
so bizarre.
Yeah, this is end of the era, and that's probably the most like the best time to say that. So, but
crazy. Well, to the future, I guess.
Yeah,
may it be bright.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So back to movies. I don't know a good way to transition back, but
you should have watched like a film about royalty.
I know, yeah. Well, I'm not going to talk about this maybe until the next episode, but I just finished literally right before we started recording Pride and Prejudice.
Okay.
The BBC 5-hour version
Holy smokes.
with Colin Firth.
Yeah.
I watched it once as a kid, and my sister and Sarah wanted to watch it again, and I was down, so.
Yeah.
I guess I will talk about it. I'm already talking about it. It was good. It's like I remembered a lot of it from as a kid, which is surprising because it's not your stereotypical boy movie.
Yeah.
It's very there's lots of girls who like it, I'll just say that. And I'm sure there's lots of men who like it too, and I would be one of them. But it is very well made. Like I never read the books or anything, and my sister has said that that it's very accurate to the books. Obviously because they took their time with it. I mean, it's 5 hours long, like I said. And my sister hates the movie, like the American-made movie with Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
Because it's so short and they just like rush everything and stuff. So, and that was the first thing I ever saw Colin Firth in when I was a kid. So I always recognized him whenever I would see him in other stuff. So, it is crazy how big he's gotten. Cause like, I don't know. It's like, obviously a lot of British actors like become famous in America, but it's weird I think it's weird for or not as common for an American to see like a British actor before they're in anything American.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially as a kid, because it's not like my parents tried to go out and find international content.
Like Daniel Kaluuya is a perfect example. I grew up with him being in Skins, which is the English kind of teenage drama. He wasn't like a main character. He was kind of like a side character in the first 2 seasons. But But when, Get Out and everything started taking off and Black Mirror, I was like, hey, it's the guy from Skins. There's that connection already. So I know what you're trying to say. I mean,
Yeah. And speaking of him, I mean, the first thing I saw him in was Black Mirror.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a lot easier to get international content now, stuff from other countries, and I mean it's all on the same platforms, so it's a lot easier to find. But yeah, it's really good. I mean it's very well made, like I said, and the acting is really good, and just like the story progression, it's very. It didn't feel like 5 hours,
That's great.
But for people who hate. I don't know. I just know that there are a lot of people who can't stand like the old English way of speaking, and like it's all about dresses and parties and balls and
Courtship.
Stuff. Courtship. Yeah. But that was courtship in particular was very much a part of the homeschool culture that I grew up in. So it was almost like, watching Pride and Prejudice was like, this is what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
In a very serious, like the actual, all the problematic patriarchal stuff that's in that world is like actually what we were trying to strive for.
Yeah. And these are why these stories kind of translate so well across time, is because they are timeless, even though the costumes and the settings and the things are different, the story is still something that we can relate to, hence why we've had like Clueless and films like that that have taken those old texts and played with them a little bit.
And I do want to clarify that I do not strive for that patriarchal society anymore. I was indoctrinated as a child, so but I've since left that way of thinking, just to clarify, in case anyone was wondering. But yeah, it's good. I also watched Prey finally on Hulu.
I keep meaning to watch it. Like I'm trying to find the time.
Yeah, we ended up putting it on one night, and it's really. I mean, you already know it's really good. Everybody's ranting and raving about it. Yeah, very good. I gave it 4 out of 5.
Awesome.
Go Dan Trachtenberg. Can't wait to see what you do next.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I also watched High Fidelity. Finally, which I know is like one of your favorite movies. We've talked about it a lot on this show. You rewatched it again recently.
I did.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I gave it 4 out of 5. I think I need to watch it a few more times to really kind of let it get etched more in my brain. Because like just thinking right now, I'm like I can't remember. My memory is so terrible. I'm like I'll watch a movie and immediately forget everything that happened in it. But I did enjoy it, and I mean Jack Black was amazing. The ending was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about that film I love. I've talked about it a million times. I just like the Rob Gordon's like his style, the fact he owns a record store, and he's my idol.
Yeah. It
which is probably very problematic, but most people are like Superman, Batman. I'm like Rob Gordon.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back to it again soon, I think.
Yeah.
It was very well made, and I did like it. I don't have a lot of intellectual things to say about it yet. I think I got to watch it a few more times,
Yeah.
But it was great to see, like, it made sense, like, knowing that kind of launched Jack Black into, like, the public attention, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that progression to School of Rock, he plays pretty much more of just a PG rated version of the guy in High Fidelity.
Yeah.
You can definitely see that progression in terms of like his persona, I guess.
Yeah. so then I also watched War Games from 1983, which I didn't really know anything about this movie until I was recently listening to the audiobook for Ready Player One, and the character in the book talks about War Games a lot, but it's a movie with Matthew Broderick,
Friend of the show.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've talked about him a lot on the show. Have you seen it? Have you seen War Games?
I haven't seen War Games, no.
It is really good. It's really funny. It's really I mean, it's like an intense kind of like action movie from that time. Well, like kind of kid-friendly action movie, you know. But still holds up because it's like he's like a computer nerd, you know, like hacker kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And you know, there's lots of movies, you know, as computers have developed that kind of lean in on like new technology and and don't really get it right, you know, like they don't hold up well years later because it's like that's not how that ever worked. But this movie, I mean, while there are, you know, certain things about it that are like, is that how that worked? I feel like it does hold up really well, and maybe because it's a little bit older, than I am. So like the computer stuff is you know, was before anything that I ever played around with as a kid. But it seems like it holds up really well. And Matthew Broderick is really good, and it's like a fun kind of like adventure kind of thing. It also is kind of a political satire in some ways. It kind of, some of it reminded me of Dr. Strangelove, the Stanley Kubrick movie. Yeah. Because it's about like world wars and stuff, but it's like I don't want to spoil it too much, but I think it's on Prime or something.
Cool. Okay.
But it's definitely worth watching for anybody that's interested. And then I rewatched Elvis, the new 2022. Went and saw it again in theaters, and saw it on a bigger screen, and loved it even more the second watch.
Great. Yeah.
I bumped it up to 5 out of 5. Like it's such a well made movie. Yeah. It's a lot of fun, and I mean it's also very depressing, but you know, I don't know. I don't want to say depressing in a good way. That's not what I mean, but you know, it's really good if you haven't seen it. I mean, it's making all the money, so I'm sure everybody's seen it by now. And then I also watched Leaving Las Vegas, which was from 1995, that won Nicolas Cage his Best Actor Oscar. And I watched it because Zach had mentioned it, and it's sounded right up my alley. I mean, it's shot on 16 millimeter film, sort of a character study kind of a thing, and it's about a guy who goes to Las Vegas to like drink himself to death. So it's very, it deals with a lot of serious issues, and Nicolas Cage is incredible in the movie, and it's beautifully shot. Like, I love 16 millimeter, and I don't know who the director of photography was on that, but like all the lighting is amazing, and it's kind of I don't know, it's kind of like a dark poem almost, you know, something like out of Edgar Allan Poe or something. Maybe not quite that dark, but I don't know. It's really good. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Seems like I've been doing that a lot lately. 4 out of 5s for everything, but
hey, if it's worth it, you know.
Yeah, man.
And this is what I always think, like, especially like when I look at my kind of rankings, I'm like, I do pick out films that I want to watch. Yeah. There's something in there that's going to interest me. You know, I'm not a film critic. I don't see every single thing that's released. So there's not really too much, I don't know, variation. Do you know what I mean? It's not like one film's 1 star, one film's 5. It's like, I know what I want to watch. Yeah, exactly. So, I get it.
Well, that's it for me, man. How about you?
Well, I kind of started off, so IndieWire recently did like a top 90s films list, and they asked a few like filmmakers and people in the industry to list their films, and I sent it across to you, Brandon, the Bill Hader's kind of list of his top 90s films. And included in there was Election, which we talked about, Bottle Rocket, I think, which we just talked about. And then there's a few others that I hadn't seen, and one of those was The Thin Red Line by Terrence Malick. And I bought it in the Criterion sale April, I think. And I bought it mostly because we watched Badlands. And it really interested me, and I wanted to kind of see it. But with it being 3 and a bit hours, I'd kind of put it off, trying to find that time. But the night came, and I was like, here we go. I'm going to watch The Thin Red Line. I gave it 5 out of 5. It is such a beautiful, unflinching look at war. You know, it doesn't really follow one character in particular. It kind of like weaves between loads of different characters, but it's just so moving and like emotional, but everyone's kind of fighting their own battles, as cliche as it sounds. But it just looks glorious. Like every shot is just amazing. Like about 2 hours of the film is spent with them trying to get over this hill. And just every shot is just absolutely beautiful. And it's one of those where you just let it wash over you. I had to keep reminding myself, okay, pay attention to the plot, because I was just watching the visuals.
And when I'm gonna have to check it out. I mean, I've been wanting to watch more Terrence Malick films.
And I think he'd been gone for 20 years before he came back and made this. So it's like a very it's crazy
big comeback.
It's beautiful. And then still on that Hitchcock hype, so I watched Suspicion from 1941, reuniting with Joan Fontaine from Rebecca, and his first collaboration with Cary Grant, about an English, she's not really an heiress, she's like pretty well off, meets a bit of a man about town in Cary Grant, and they kind of get married, but Cary Grant is a bit of a suspicious character, and you're never quite sure whether his intentions are true or not. It's another film that he made with Selznick after Rebecca, and Selznick had a lot to do with like changing the ending and stuff. The original ending, as I've been reading in this massive biography I'm reading on Hitch at the moment, was very different. But as Selznick put it, you can't have your leading man turn out to be a murderer. So it had to be changed. And it's really like good and like tight and tense until you get to that last 20 minutes. And then it's kind of like, that doesn't make any real sense. Which is a shame.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. But I mean, that's Hollywood at the time. Maybe Europe would have been a bit more freer, would have allowed him to do the ending he wanted to do. So I gave it 3.5 out of 5. It's good. It's good Hitch, not the best Hitch. And then I rewatched Taxi Driver from 1976.
Nice.
It has been a long time since I watched Taxi Driver. Oh my God, it's amazing. It's tense. It's like flies along. The characters feel real. It's like grimy and dirty, but also like there's just so much going on. I don't know. It's absolutely glorious. Just a filmmaker at his best.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't believe it's taken me this long to kind of go back to watch it.
Yeah, it's one of those movies. I think I've watched it 2 times, maybe 3, but and I've enjoyed it every time. But it's like it's one of those movies that I feel like it takes you down this, it leads you into this dark vision, which is it's brilliantly made, but you kind of have to be willing to go there.
That's it. I mean, the whole thing is like there's voiceover from Travis Bickle and stuff, and it's a like you said, it's a very hard place to be inside his head for that duration of the film. But De Niro just disappears. Like, it's De Niro, but it's not. You know, his performance is so off the chain, you know.
Yeah.
You're never quite sure what's next, even if you have seen it before. It's bro. Scorsese is just the master.
Oh, yeah, man.
And then I watched, this is the last one, I watched Safety Last from 1923. I rewatched a Harold Lloyd silent comedy, often called the third genius, behind Chaplin and Keaton. I shouldn't really say behind because, you know, they all have merits. And I'm sure any listeners that's not sure about the film would know the image of him hanging off a clock kind of on a building. And it's phenomenal. You know, it's kind of, it's slapstick comedy at its best. Everything is turned up and like the stakes keep getting higher and higher, but it's still like edge of your seat, thrilling. You know, and it's just made so well, and the jokes are funny, and I gave it 5 out of 5.
Nice.
Yeah, Safety Last is a great film.
I really need to make a point of watching more older films and silent films. I mean, I like tell myself I need to do it, and then I never do.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I'm the same. I love silent films, but I still have to like not psych myself up, but kind of put myself in the frame of mind to watch one.
Right.
You know, I find that as soon as it starts, I'm in it and I'm fine, but it's kind of like, I could put that on, or I could put on something with words.
Mission Impossible 2.
That's, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, as I always say, the slapstick comedy is the best place to start for the silent films, because there's just so much to like look at, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Safety Last.
Nice.
And that brings us to the main feature, which is also from the 90s. And I think this is where my interest in this film kind of sparked recently, is the top 90s list that came out, as I was talking about earlier. Because before we did the show and you picked 1991, I had downloaded this to watch. So I was preparing to watch it anyway, you know.
Yeah, that's funny.
And then you picked it, and I was like, "Well, here we go. Now I've got to watch it." Yeah. So the film is Point Break from 1991. The tagline is 100% pure adrenaline, and the letterbox summary is: in Los Angeles, a gang of bank robbers call themselves the ex-presidents, commit their crimes while wearing masks of Reagan, Carter, Nixon, and Johnson. The FBI believes that the members of the gang could be surfers and send young agent Johnny Utah, yep, that is his real name, undercover at the beach to mix with the surfers and gather information. It stars Patrick Swayze, Keanu Reeves, Gary Busey, and Laurie Petty, and it's directed by Kathryn Bigelow. So, Brandon, the first question I have to ask you, are you familiar with Kathryn Bigelow?
So not really. I mean, obviously it's a name that I recognize, but then when I look at her filmography, I haven't seen a ton. Mm-hmm. I've seen The Hurt Locker. No, have I? I have not seen The Hurt Locker. This is not the same movie I was thinking of. So this might be my first Kathryn Bigelow movie, because I haven't seen Zero Dark 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, like I said, obviously it's a name that I recognize, but then, yeah, looking at her filmography, I'm like, holy shit, I've never seen any of her movies except this. Wow. Where have I been? Yeah, because this was a really well-made movie. I mean, when you talk about action movies, from 1991, you would not think that they would still hold up.
I know. Yeah.
Against today's action movies, but this does.
100%. Yeah, so I'd seen The Hurt Locker, and I saw Detroit when that came out in 2017, and I loved it. Yeah. I thought it was really poignant and like unflinching, and, you know, all that kind of stuff, which is a surprise that I haven't really gone back to watch her other films. You know, because normally that would spark the interest to go back and kind of tick off the ones I hadn't seen. And the film she made either just before this or two before this, Blue Steel with Sigourney Weaver, has been on my watch list for a while. So I feel like I've been aware of her films for a while, but never had the opportunity to kind of jump right in.
Yeah. I mean, it probably has something to do with the sexism, not necessarily of you and I, but of just the world and Hollywood in general. Of like, because it's like you think about like, anytime a Tarantino or a Paul Thomas Anderson or a Spielberg movie comes out, it's like the new film from this person, you know. But like it seems like with Kathryn Bigelow's filmography, anytime a Kathryn Bigelow movie comes out, you would, you know, have a huge marketing campaign. It could be just be that I'm not paying attention, but
no. But I was going to say that I haven't seen 0.30, and I think that was the reason why. You know, I don't think it was kind of in that grey period where I was coming out of uni and traveling a lot and stuff like that, and I don't think it ever like crossed my radar to go see it.
Yeah,
you know, even though I did really enjoy The Hurt Locker. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely not enough hype. I mean, even for this, you know, normally I like to go back and go through, you know, certain film magazines like Sight and Sound and kind of look up interviews, because they normally do big career spanning interviews with filmmakers. And there was literally like one 4-page article from when Detroit came out with an interview with it, and it was mostly just about Detroit.
Huh.
And I was like, that doesn't really seem right, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when so many of the film, I mean, she's the first female Oscar winner for Best Director.
Yeah.
You know, so many of these films, if I say the titles, you recognize them as a viewer. Why haven't we got more content? You know, why isn't she more recognizable?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
Which I feel like we're kicking off the show with a big kind of question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good, you know, it's not a question that can necessarily be answered right now. It's more of like a, okay, well, we should take that and maybe do something about it, or, you know, try to give more attention to her, and you know, same with whoever's listening, you know, like, what does it mean? Do something about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Because this is not a film that I think many women would have got the opportunity to kind of have a go at, you know. And there was an interview that I did find where the interview asked her, like, you know, do you think that because you're a woman that, you know, this was a harder film to get to direct? And she was like, no, I wasn't really thinking about like the action side. It was more the story I wanted to tell, you know, which is great, because the story is good, but those set pieces are brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, the action is kind of what makes it work on that other level, you know.
Right.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is yeah, like I said, I mean, the action really holds up and stuff, but there's also a lot of good character driven stuff in this film.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately it's kind of about Johnny Utah becoming a man, you know. And it's also kind of a spiritual journey, you know, and the spirituality of being a surfer, you know.
Yeah.
Riding the waves, brah.
That's it. I did read a lot of stuff that said that there was some pushback when it first came out because the surfer speak was too much. They thought that, like, this film, it lent too much into that culture. And I don't know if times have just changed, but it didn't seem like that to me.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I think in comparison of how far we know they could have gone, it's not that bad.
Yeah, no one's like, hang 10, dude. You know, it's not like it's pretty reserved, I feel.
Yeah, and even like Keanu Reeves, who is famous for famous mostly for like Matrix and action films now. I mean, at the time, he was famous for Bill and Ted, which is way more stonery and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's still got some of it here, but not really the stonery part, but just like, I mean, he's from Hawaii, isn't he?
I think so.
So like he's got that kind of
relaxed.
Yeah, dude. Like, which comes out like it comes out several times, but it didn't bother me. It's
no,
like, that's just him. That's
Yeah.
just who he is. Like,
Yeah.
It's more endearing, I think, to see him in his roots like this. I think than it is to be like, oh God, like eye rolling or something.
Because I must admit, when the film started, I was a little bit worried about what we were going to see, because it opens with like it pouring down with rain. Keanu Reeves is shooting his gun at like targets, and then we get a very slow motion like thumbs up with him looking very serious.
Yeah,
and I was like, I don't like where this is going already.
Yeah,
this is not it seems very cheesy and very 90s. But the rest of the film seems to divert away from that pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, especially like, as soon as the bank robbery scene happens, because it's like, oh, this is a bank heist movie. Cool.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's not like,
yeah,
oh, this is 91 action. This is on I would put it up there with any bank heist movie. It's or any good bank heist movie. It is done really well. It's very intense and it feels real and it engages you in all the things that all the things you want a good bank heist movie to be.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, that opening scene on a second watch, it kind of mirrors the ending. With the rain and the waves and the scene with Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves at the end and stuff.
Yeah. And I think it also illustrates kind of that he's not seen action. This is his training is targets, paper targets.
Yeah.
When they do the house raid, Gary Busey says to him like, yeah, there's more cleanup when it's not paper targets.
Yeah.
So I think it's just from the very start, you kind of knowing that he's a bit inexperienced, and maybe not prepared for what's about to happen in front of him.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I think that's where Keanu Reeves plays it really well, because he has got like a young face in this. He looks very young and kind of you would believe that he was a surfer. He fits in. He doesn't look like Gary Busey does when he's running down to the beach in his Hawaiian shirt, and you're like, nog.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it's great casting.
Yeah, which the credit goes to Kathryn Bigelow there because, on a lot of the cast, I know she was responsible for Keanu Reeves and she had to push for him and for Lori Petty too, because she is not your typical beach babe.
Mm-hmm.
But like, but again, like she pushed for Keanu Reeves, and this is 91. Like this is Keanu Reeves' first action film, which now that's what he's known for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, to all the haters out there, it's like Kathryn Bigelow is responsible for bringing you Keanu Reeves. Like, John Wick and Neo. Like, we wouldn't have those potentially without her putting him in this film and it doing so well.
Yeah.
And then again, we'll probably talk about Lori Petty more, but like, yeah, I mean, she's also great casting, great in this film.
She is. Yeah, I love how those gender tropes are kind of played with. With Lori Petty, like you said, she's not the typical, beach babe, quote unquote. but she's never not in control apart from the last 10 minutes where she does have to play the damsel in distress.
Yeah.
You know, which is unfortunate, but I think for the stakes, it's kind of required, isn't it? It's, you know.
Yeah.
And then we also get that weird scene with the house raid where there's the girl in the shower. Mm-hmm. You know, as soon as I went to the party, because I watched it with Chelsea, I was like, it's the 90s, there's going to be a topless woman somewhere. I was like, just to kind of, you know, fill it in, and then there wasn't, and then we went straight to that house raid, and Chelsea was like, oh, there you go, you know, there's a topless woman kind of thing. And then she's not the kind of character you think she would be. You know, they break in and she kind of screams a little. Then she comes out with a knife and is like stabbing the policeman and stuff. It's
she's like kicking ass. She like kicks.
Yeah.
I think it was Keanu Reeves. Well, maybe not. She kicks someone in the face.
Yeah.
And she's just like butt ass naked.
Yeah. But it is that kind of the playing with what we would assume is going to happen.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I wonder if that is Kathryn Bigelow's voice or if that is like in the script.
Yeah.
You know?
It is a good question. Yeah, I don't know.
Because it to me, it
I mean, it probably would have been handled very differently by a man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think a man would have at that time thought too much about it. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like you know, normally you would see maybe someone grab the woman and like put a gun to her or a knife to her to be, you know, all of a sudden she's the hostage.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, it struck me as a little, just something I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I mean, the women in it are interesting, but this is all about the men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
all
a
about bromance.
Yeah. That relationship between Bodhi and Johnny Utah. Which I could never, for the first hour, I was like, is Johnny Utah just like his name for undercover? Because it sounds it sounds like a surfer name. It's, you know, it's like, oh, it's Johnny Utah, you know.
Yeah.
But no, that's his real name, I guess, in the film. So.
Yeah, it is surprising that he uses his real name when he's undercover. It's like, he's like, my name's Johnny Utah. He's like shouting it. It's like... But yeah, I mean, it's such a classic name. I forget who they mentioned in the behind the scenes stuff who it was a reference to.
And do you know who was up
Joe
to play?
Joe Montana, I think.
Oh, Joe Montana. Yeah. Or Joe Montana. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know who was up to play the role of Johnny Utah before Keanu?
I think wasn't Johnny Depp one of them?
He was, and our favorite person.
Our favorite person?
Matthew Broderick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his name was floated about a little bit, which would have been a very different film, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I love Matthew Broderick, but he's not a go-to action guy.
No.
I guess.
I don't think the chase scene would have been as thrilling.
Yeah. And yeah, for sure. And like the scene, like even jumping out of the airplane and stuff, like when he goes after him at the end.
Yeah.
Without a parachute.
Ooh,
I don't know.
We're gonna talk about that scene because
yeah,
it was the point in the film where. So just for context, we watched this on a Saturday night. We had a bowl of popcorn. You know, it was like the perfect film for the setting that we were in. And when it got to that point, when Bodhi leaves leaves Johnny Utah in the plane at the end without a parachute, and he kind of jumps out. I wanted to scream, "You better jump out of that plane! I want to see you jump with no parachute!" Like, and then I got my wish, and I was just like, "Yes, this is what I want from like a 90s action film."
Yeah,
it's always borderline insanity, but it works. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me, that scene in particular, of the most recent Mission Impossible movie, which I cannot keep track of their names, but it's the one that has Henry Cavill in it, and there's the whole scene when it's like somewhere in the middle of the film, or maybe in the beginning, when Tom Cruise jumps out of the plane. I guess it's him and Henry Cavill actually. They jump out of the plane. It reminded me of that because it was like it was on that level of good action.
Yeah.
But also reminded me, like, because I just rewatched the first Mission Impossible, which was also in the 90s. It was 96, I think. And it's good. I like the movie a lot, and it has a lot of nostalgia for me. But it doesn't hold up as well as far as the action goes. And this is 5 years before.
Yeah.
You know, and like that scene with them falling out of the plane is intense and fun, and like I mean, it's just the kind of thing I would have been into, man, as a kid in the 90s. Like, you know, he's jumping out of the plane with this revolver, and that's it.
Yeah, I know. It's the kind of thing that like movies are made for.
Yeah,
you want to see that on the big. You know, you want to see this on the big screen. So when it happened, I was just like, I am very happy with the way that this film has gone. You know, because then there's that awesome chase scene like halfway through as well. You know, the foot chase, which is tight, it's close. You know, you feel like you're there with them. Keanu Reeves drop kicks a dog. It's bonkers in the best way. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's a chase scene that starts in the car and then it goes on foot, and it's just like I would imagine this movie. I mean, it reminds me of so many other movies that come after it.
Yeah.
That I'm like, oh, this movie had to have inspired some of these things, like Jason Bourne, like all the chase scenes in those movies, because I think this was like early Steadicam work too, because like I was watching the behind the scenes stuff, and like you don't really think about it because you've seen it so much more in modern films nowadays. I mean, we're 30 years in the future now from when this movie was made, but like one of the opening scenes when Keanu Reeves is like being shown around the office, and his like boss or whatever, the person he has to report to, John C. McGinley, the actor. It's like a one take where they're walking through the building and they're just like having this conversation. Yeah. But in the behind the scenes stuff, he's like, yeah, this was early Steadicam work. We did that take like 50 times to get it right, because like somebody would bump something, like the camera would like get bumped or whatever, or you know, we'd miss our mark or whatever. Like it took 50 takes to get that scene, and it's not even an action scene. No, you know. So like to think about that, and then the fact that they do this long chase scene through houses, through backyards, through the streets, through all this stuff, like it, and it holds up. So like it's good and intense, you know.
Yeah, it's great. The chase scene is definitely where it kind of turned a corner for me in terms of like good to great. And I think that it puts you right, like you said, it's right in the middle. And I know that the camera work and stuff is to do with that. But again, you can't really imagine what it was like to see this for the first time. Yeah. Because it's not like the kind of camera work you would expect. It's not shaky. It's not, you know, like you can't really tell what's going on. It's very clear. And it's the same with the skydive sequences. Like, you know where they are. You know kind of who's who and what's happening. It never kind of, I don't know, gets caught.
You never get lost.
Yeah, flashiness of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the chase scene is so good. And then we get the very iconic scene of him shooting the gun into the air, which brings me on to Edgar Wright, which, you talking about like the influences, like it's, this must be Edgar Wright, one of Edgar Wright's favorite films. Because not only in Hot Fuzz do they mention that scene with them shooting the gun in the air, which is where I'd see it as soon as it came out. I was like, this is from Hot Fuzz. But there's another connection, which I tried to tweet Edgar Wright to see if he'd reply, but obviously he didn't. But
Come on, Edgar.
In Baby Driver,
you're not busy.
Not too busy. In Baby Driver, they obviously wear the masks when they rob the banks. And one of the masked bank robbers is Flea, the bassist from Red Hot Chili Peppers. And did you know the connection to Point Break from there?
Well, aren't the guys who like beat up Keanu Reeves, is that the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
It's the lead singer, yeah. So one of the guys that beats him up is Anthony Kiedis.
Oh, so just one of the guys.
I think so.
Okay, it's not like the whole band.
I don't think so. I think it's just him playing one, and then he shoots himself in the foot, literally, later in the film.
That's like
Anthony
okay,
Kiedis.
yeah, okay, gotcha, yeah, okay.
So I tweeted him, and I was like, "Hey, was the casting of Flea like a homage, or was it just like incidental?" But I can't help but feel like there was some, it just worked out.
I mean,
way,
it's gotta be. It's gotta be.
Yeah.
Because then he has like the Mike Myers joke too in there too, doesn't he?
Yeah, this is Mike Myers.
Yeah. Man, I need to rewatch that.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah. Because I was like, is that the lead singer of Red Hot Chili Peppers? And then, like, the more I thought about them, I was like, that just makes sense. He's mentioned this film before in another film.
Yeah.
And then he did one about bank robbers, and there's that connection there. So.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
You go ahead. Okay, I'll go ahead. I would imagine too that like this film also was maybe one of the first like really good surfer movies, and kind of sparked all the rest, because it seemed like the 90s was full, or at least the early 90s was full of a lot of surfer movies, including Surf Ninjas. Have you ever seen that?
I've never seen Surf Ninjas. No.
It's not to go on too much of a tangent, but oh my gosh, who's in this movie? It's the kid from did you watch all the Ninja Turtles movies?
No.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was only an American big American thing, but like we grew up watching the Ninja Turtles movies, and in the second one there's a character. Well, I don't know why I'm even going into the story, because I can't remember anybody's names. But the kid from Ninja Turtles 2 is in Surf Ninjas. So we watched that a lot. And Rob Schneider is also in it. It's like from 93. But yeah, ninjas on surfboards.
Cool.
Anyway. That's all I have to say about that.
At least I got the title right.
Yeah.
The one person we haven't really talked about too much, Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I'm not that familiar, I must admit, with Patrick Swayze. I don't feel like I've seen a lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
So that he was like a real revelation
to
me
you
in this film. Yeah.
Okay.
I know that he's a very good actor and really well thought of and stuff. But he gave his all to this performance. He was Bodhi.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And you never knew whether he was kind of borderline crazy or whether he was just doing it for the thrill. He was just a thrill seeker. There's times when his kind of eyes seem to get a little bit, when he's like, I know how to deal with him. He's kind of, oh God.
Yeah.
Good luck. But yeah, he was great.
Yeah, man. Like he was really good in this movie, and he is, I think, up there with just like Hollywood legends. You know, I mean, he is a movie star.
Yeah.
And he's a great actor. Like he's been in so many classic films. I mean, Dirty Dancing is probably his most famous, and there's also Ghost.
Yeah.
I've seen Dirty Dancing. I've never seen Ghost, but I think he had in Dirty Dancing. He even had a bad knee, which like that's one of those movies that like was crazy how it got made. I think there's like the movies that made us episode about it, because he did have a bad knee and he's like dancing his ass off in that whole movie.
Wow.
But other than that, I've also seen him in To Wong Fu, which is another 90s movie. It's 95. It is a really, really great movie. If you're a Patrick Swayze fan, like go check it out. It's Patrick Swayze, Wesley Snipes, and John Leguizamo. I'm sorry, I'm butchering his name, but it's the three of them, and they're all in drag.
Wow.
For the whole movie, and it's really great, really funny, like just 90s, like pushing the boundaries comedy.
Yeah.
And like you can tell like everything that Patrick Swayze does, he gives it everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
He gives it 100%, and his whole heart is in it. I wouldn't doubt that there was anything that he didn't put everything he had into.
Yeah, I mean, even this film, like most of the surfing is that you see Bodhi do is him. The skydiving is obviously he did it. I mean, there was even a point where the studio had to issue him a cease and desist because I think he'd done something like 30 skydives during the duration of the filming. And they were just like, hey, you need to stop because we cannot like afford to keep insuring you.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, maybe he felt more of a kinship with Bodhi than we realized, you know, just this adrenaline junkie that's, you know, just wants to do everything, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great casting.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And he's the kind of person that if you were like a beach rat who didn't really like authority, you would be drawn towards as well.
Yeah.
You'd be like, okay, this is the guy that's going to show me what to do and the way to achieve what I want to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's great. And I love his whole mantra about living life and just seizing the moments, you know?
Yeah. It is a little depressing when they're like around the fire and they're like, yeah, we're all going to die soon.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that might be some of the deeper meanings of this film is just like we only get one life, you know, live it kind of thing. Because the whole talk about the wave that's going to hit is Australia, I think. Once every 50,
true, yeah.
Once every 50 years. And you kind of do the maths on it a little bit. And it's like, yeah, that is like once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Like, because if he's, you know, conservatively, like 30 right now, he's not going to try and do it when he's 80.
Right, yeah.
You know, and then rewatching that scene again when he's describing it, he immediately goes into, it would be, you know, it's not sad if you die doing something you love. Which is just, I feel at that point, that's he's already planned it.
Yeah.
He's going to go and he's going to die surfing that wave.
Yeah.
That's how he plans to go out.
Yeah.
Which he does. Spoiler.
Yeah.
Keanu lets him go again and he rides the wave and then disappears behind another wave.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah. Bodhi.
Bye, Bodhi.
Yeah. Bye-bye, Bodhi.
Yeah, it was interesting in that scene. So apparently they had stopped filming. Like they had filmed everything, and then they didn't film that last scene for several months after they had filmed everything because Keanu Reeves went off to do Bill and Ted 2, and Patrick Swayze was doing stuff. So when they come back to do that scene, like Keanu Reeves' hair is long, and Patrick Swayze's hair is shorter, but it like works for the scene.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, you can tell. It's genuine that time has passed. When he's like, "I've been chasing you everywhere," you believe it.
Yeah.
And there was, I think there was a point where he was kind of talking about this, and I was like, I bet that's where he's going to end, or he's going to track him down to that point. But it didn't feel, I didn't feel let down because that's what did happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It was a great ending to these two characters' stories. And then Johnny Utah throws his badge in the sand. He's done. He did his job.
Which is a little surprising.
Yeah.
What's he going to do now, rob banks and surf?
Yeah.
I mean, he asked him at the end, he's like, "You still surf?" And he's like, "Every day." Like, damn, you surf every day while you're searching for this guy?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how that works. Just in the pool of his hotel, just, paddling out to the deep end.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's a fully... he's fully crossed over into that spiritual realm of surfing.
I don't think he was a very good cop to begin with, though. I mean, he was like, "It's definitely these guys," and it definitely wasn't. And they destroyed a 2-year undercover operation that was going on because there was, when that heist was happening, I was like, there is no forethought to this. I was like, this is so terrible, planned so terribly, and then you kind of realize that's kind of, it's meant to be planned terribly.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, yeah, so it's these, I know who it is, and instantly gives himself away. He's like, "Hey, I'm the FBI," while he's chasing them. And they're like, "Okay, he's FBI now."
Yeah.
So, if I was Keanu, I'd probably throw my badge in the sand as well. I don't think he's cut out for this work.
What do you think Johnny Utah is up to now?
Johnny Utah. I think he's probably got like a surf shop on the beach, and people will come in and he's like, "Yeah, you ever heard of Bodhi?" And they'll be like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, I've got a story." And then it's a bit like Princess Bride. He'll tell them the whole story of what happened between him and Bodhi.
Him and Lori Petty have kids, and he's like telling his little kids about Bodhi.
Yeah, one of them is called Bodhi.
Yeah.
The other one's called Pappas.
Another one is Nixon.
Yeah.
Nix.
I mean, oh, Johnny Utah. But yeah, I imagine him, Keanu now, but just in a surf shop. He's still surfing every day.
Yeah.
So
he's gonna surf the next 50-year.
Yeah, he's just hanging
wave. He's just waiting until he's 80.
Yeah, I mean, 30 years has passed, so he's only got 20 more to go.
Yeah.
If he's doing it every day, it shouldn't be too much longer.
So what about Lori Petty, though?
She's great. She is great.
Yeah, I mean, she's... I wish I had seen her in more lately. I mean, she's in Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
Did you recognize her from that?
So Chelsea recognized her more than I did.
Okay, cool.
I can't remember where she recognized her from, but she was like, "Oh, I know her."
Yeah.
Have you seen? That's where she knows it from. A League of Their Own.
Oh, okay. Have you seen Orange is the New Black?
I've seen the first season, so I did recognize her from.
Is she in the first season? I can't remember.
She might not be. Did I see the first 3 seasons? Maybe.
I can't remember when she comes. I know she comes in a little bit later, but it might be later in the end of the first season. But
because isn't she like a little timid?
She's like kind of a crazy person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's like got big glasses on, and she's like.
Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
Maybe.
Yeah,
she's kind of just a crazy person. She like talks to herself, and she's like. She's got like schizophrenia or something, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she's amazing in Orange is the New Black and in this. Cool. Yeah. And she's also in a film called Tank Girl from the 90s.
Yeah.
Which I thought about picking next, but I I decided not to. But it is a great '90s movie. It's like it's like a post-apocalyptic future in the desert, kind of Mad Maxy a little
awesome.
bit. And she's the star, and it's good. I ended up watching it because Sarah wanted me to see it. She went and saw it at Alamo, and Lori Petty was there, so she got to see her in person.
Wow, that's awesome.
Cool. I wish now that I had gone. I don't know what I was doing at the time. Maybe working. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's awesome in this movie. Like,
yeah, she is. And I think you never really question like the dynamic between the relationships. She's the one that's in control. You know, he's kind of like the pretty boy throughout the majority of it. You know, she finds out that he's a cop, like all by herself. You know, takes a shot at him as well. It's yeah, she's a badass,
total badass.
Yeah. And then we've also got Gary Busey.
Yes.
Pappas, his cohort, I guess. And my favorite conversation from the whole film is between Johnny Utah and Pappas, where they're talking about, it's the first kind of debrief about what's going on with the surfers, and he kind of lays it out. And then I think Gary Busey says to Keanu Reeves, "Does any of that make sense?" And Keanu Reeves is like, "No, not really, but I'm going to go with it." And I was like, this is like this film. Like, none of the, like, you know, let's narrow it down to surfers really makes that much sense. You know, there was some sand pollution left at the crime scene. You're like, okay, but
it's all about the butt cheeks. If that dude had not like shown his butt on the camera, they would have never known.
And it's quite a feat to do it on a surfboard, because he does it later while he's surfing. He kind of, and that's like the triggering point. He's like, wait a minute, I've seen that crack before.
I've seen that ass. I know that ass.
This is what we're saying, though. There's so much in this film that sounds ridiculous. But when it's watched in context and you watch the whole thing, it's a blast. Like, none of that makes, like, it doesn't deter you at all, you know?
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
You saying the ass is a blast?
Well, a blast from the past for Johnny Utah. He's seen that somewhere before.
Oh, man. But yeah, it's that's a good point though. Like, but I mean that's like any good action movie, right? It's like or any good story, really. It's like you know, like I've been listening to Vince Gilligan lately, talk about his writing process and stuff, and he was like, you know, coming up with the idea for Breaking Bad, you know, about a teacher who cooks meth for money. Yeah. You know, it sounds ridiculous, but like if you think of an idea that just sounds absurd, like start to try to think of, well, what circumstances would make this make sense? Yeah. And then you've got a really good story.
Yeah. I mean, that's what he did. Breaking Bad is like, again, it's one of those where the stakes just keep getting higher and higher and higher. Yeah. But it kind of makes sense in the context. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Just like this. You know, the point where he drop kicks the dog, which I'm going to keep talking about. You're so far into this movie, you're like, yes, get that dog out of the way. He's got a job to do.
It happens so fast. It's just like, whoa, what?
Yeah, and it's the noise as well. I bet whoever did the sound on this film just had a great time, because it's like he's like barking and trying to bite him, and then he kicks in. It's just like, "Ruh!" And that's it. Yeah, it's gone.
And they had to make it believable, and it worked. Yeah. They did, you know, because if they had filmed it wrong or done the sound wrong, or whatever, it would not have worked.
Yeah, and it does. Yeah. I really like the woman that's like, when they're running through her garden, she's like, "Get out!" and she starts like trying to hit him with a broom. As well. I mean, I put it on this afternoon while I was, you know, making dinner and stuff, just on in the background to remind myself of some stuff, and I just found myself like, you know,
Just
in
sitting
it
there
again.
watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, it's a blast. And I know we say this for every single film, but seeing this on a big screen with a packed audience would be the best.
Yeah.
Cheering and, I don't know.
I mean, it's like the
gasping
perfect summer movie,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Just like packed house, blast.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go back and watch the other Kathryn Bigelow films now because
Yeah, for sure.
there's definitely a spark in there that I'm like, I want to see what else she did.
Yeah.
Because I know that Near Dark is pretty well thought of as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Man. What a film.
Yeah, man. It was great.
Do you want to, do you have anything else to say or do you want to guess what we rated on Letterboxd?
I think we should guess.
Awesome.
I'm going to say you rated it. Ooh. I'm going to say 4.5.
Okay. I'm going to say you rated it 4.
All right.
You are correct.
You are correct.
Yes.
How can it be?
We know each other so well.
Yeah.
This feature is just going to get more and more boring. We're just
Yeah, I know.
I know what you did. Rated it.
You never know. Sometimes we surprise each other.
Yeah. It's so good. Like,
Yeah.
it's just such a great, like, film to watch with other people and just pass a few hours, it zips by. It's directed really well. The acting's great. You see two megastars, basically, going toe to toe, and everything works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I'm glad I've ticked it off the list.
It is crazy that, like, I mean, in hindsight now, it's like, oh, Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze, but
Yeah.
like at the time this came out, like,
It was just Patrick Swayze.
most people, like
Yeah.
nobody, like Keanu Reeves did not have that kind of star power yet, and now he's like, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
The Keanu Reeves. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Like, it's amazing. Creating cinema history.
Yeah.
Kathryn Bigelow.
I know. Amazing. So,
She's the man.
yeah. And beat James Cameron, her ex-husband, at the Oscars for The Hurt Locker.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
didn't know she was married to James Cameron. See, I don't know anything.
He was, he produced the film, executive produced it.
I did
Point
see
Break.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were married, I think, at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah. Up yours, Cameron.
Blast that ass.
Wait a minute. I've seen that ass before. Oh, man.
Well,
Is it weird to say that's my favorite bit?
where he sees the ass and,
Yeah, and
he
he's
makes
like,
the connection.
wait a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is funny because it's like, it's like the whole like slow motion thing, realization. I mean, it's handled very like
Serious?
seriously,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just funny that it's like that's the
trigger.
clue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Point Break. Everyone should watch it. It's great.
Yeah, man.
On that note, on that bum note, that brings us to the end of the show. You can find the show on Twitter and Instagram at Film Church Radio. And you can follow us individually on Letterboxd. Brandon is at Selman Scope, and I'm at Walker Lewis 3007 to keep up with what we've been watching. We also have all of our back episodes streaming on our good podcast platforms. You can hear us talk about Dogma with Jason Woods. You can hear us talk about Election. You can hear us talk about Morbius. It's on Netflix now. You can watch it and then hear us slate it for an hour. That sounds like fun. And obviously, if you are enjoying the show, please go and leave us a rating and review wherever you listen. Again, we really appreciate it. Helps people find it. We would very much be in your gratitude. That wasn't the right way to phrase that. Words are hard. But yeah, if you do want to get in touch and let us know what you thought about the film, please do. Or if you've got any suggestions that Brandon and I can pick in future weeks, that would be great also. All that's left to say, Brandon, is let me tell you what you
next
produced.
week.
Oops.
Sorry, I was trying to get it in there before you started.
We can cut this bit out.
Okay.
Edit, he didn't.
But yeah,
what are we watching next week, Brandon?
Well, I will tell you. So, it's okay. I mean, I've done it plenty of times, I think. I have.
Man, I went through the whole outro and I didn't even notice.
I've done it before, man. Like, it's not the first time.
Okay, we're gonna start again. What are we watching next week, Brandon?
Well, let me tell you, Lewis. I picked a film from 2002. Been on my list for a while for several reasons, mainly because of Bruce Campbell. My obsession and my dreams.
Yeah.
Which you can find on YouTube on my YouTube channel, personal one. The film is Bubba Hotep.
Nice.
Bruce Willis playing Bruce Willis. Just like slipped out. Bruce Campbell.
I'm obsessed with Bruce Campbell. Bruce Willis.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. I was possessed.
I've thrown us all off. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's not. Who knows what it is? We're delusional.
Yeah.
We've seen so many asses. Yeah, so Bruce Campbell is playing Elvis, and I can't wait to watch it. I've known about this film for a long time, and I've never gotten around to it. I'll tell you more next week.
Sounds good. I'm excited. This will be a rewatch for me. I haven't seen it for a few years, so I'm excited to go back.
Sweet.
Cool.
Tune in next week.
Do it. All that's left to say is, Brandon, let me tell you what you've produced. Over the last 2 weeks, you two have produced exactly squat. Squat! During which time the ex-presidents have robbed 2 more banks. Now, for Christ's sake, does either of you have anything even remotely interesting to tell me?
I caught my first tube today, sir.
Keanu, at his best. Thanks for listening, everyone. Say your film church prayers.
Say 'em.
Amen.
Amen.
Bye.
Peace.